Hey guys, Dominic from Genuine Assholes, and Halloween is a little over a week away, and I thought it would be fun to revisit the big three of horror. That's Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger himself from the Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street franchises. Now what I'm going to do is this is part one of a three-part video series where I'm basically going to give my worst to best on each series. A couple of rules right from the get-go. I will not be including remakes in these lists because I'm not going to get into a shitty remake and or its shittier sequel. I'm looking at you, Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We're just going to go the bare essentials. And I'm also not going to include Freddy versus Jason in either one of the Jason or Freddy lists because I kind of was tiptoeing around including it in Freddy's because he has the least movies, and it kind of always felt like a Freddy movie to me anyway, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of leave that on the sidelines and just make it kind of like an honorable mention. But today, we're going to start with our first, and my least favorite, Jason Voorhees. Now, obviously, from the Friday the 13th series, and obviously, I don't hate Jason because I'm wearing a fucking shirt with him on it, but out of the three big ones, he's my least favorite, and it's basically because I think Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, they started off in a different gear than the Friday the 13th series. If you watch the original Nightmare, if you watch the original Halloween, you'll realize these are pretty damn good movies, and definitely great horror movies, you know? Whereas I think, and I'm probably going to get a lot of fanboy hate, but I think that Friday the 13th, the first one, is just kind of not the greatest movie in the world. It's basically an imitation of Halloween, a replica, and a different version of it. But let's not delve into that too much. Let's jump into the list. So without any further ado, my worst to best of the Friday the 13th series. There are 10 movies in the original Friday the 13th series, and like I said, right from the beginning of this series, it's kind of a rocky uphill road. But let's start with the worst. The worst film in the series is the 9th entry, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Now that name may sound like a badass title, but this movie is exactly the opposite. This was the first film that was by New Line Cinemas after they picked up the Jason character, who they also owned Freddy. Hint, hint, something's coming in the future. And this movie is just an abomination. I mean, it's a terrible fucking movie. I guess watch it here and there because I just love the horror, the cheese, or whatever of it. But this movie doesn't even have Jason in it that much. I mean, Kane Hodder returns to play Jason in this, but he's basically in the beginning, and he pops up again at the end, and actually Kane Hodder pops up in a cameo somewhere in there, if I remember correctly. But this movie tries to establish a kind of history of Jason, and some backstory. You know, they kind of show that Jason's evil jumps from body to body, so there's other, you know, people killing people in this movie, but like when they look in the mirror, they see Jason. Jason does look badass, though. He's got, like, you know, the brains coming out of the hockey mask and stuff, and I like the scenes he's in, but this movie just doesn't do it. The real redeeming factor in this movie is that Freddy's glove comes up at the end and pulls Jason's mask down into hell, which flash forward to, what was it, 10 years it took? Later, we got Freddy vs. Jason. But other than that, this is a shit movie and definitely skippable, but let's try to get a little better. Let's chop it down. My next down the list is the 10th installment. See, we did there, a little swapperoo. Jason X. Now, this is probably an argument right here. Which one's worse than this? You're going to go with the one where he's in space as the better one? Yes, I am. Because this movie is actually pretty enjoyable. It's definitely more enjoyable than the Final Friday because it kind of redoes those things you've been seeing in the Friday the 13th series forever and cheeses him up and makes him a little jokey. Obviously, it's in space. The reason this movie even was made like this was because Freddy vs. Jason was in development hell for so long, and it was right on the cusp of being made, but they had time and they said, hey, let's just make another Jason movie, but let's not fuck up the continuity, so they set it in the future. It's ridiculous. Kane Hodder back yet again. I mean, I wouldn't say I love it, And I probably watched Final Friday more than Jason X, but if you're in the mood for space and horror, why not watch this? Why not watch Alien? Why not watch Leprechaun in Space, Leprechaun 4? That's another video. Okay, moving right along. Number 8 is, well, number 8. It's Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, I live in New York, so this is a no-brainer for me, right? I mean, this movie's got to be great. Oh wait, only the last 10 minutes take place in Manhattan because the budget couldn't afford it. Now, there are elements of this movie I enjoy, particularly Jason punching somebody's head off, like literally punching somebody's head off and it falling into a dumpster. But this movie kind of just has a lot of bad acting, like a lot of the other movies, but just you're waiting for the Manhattan, you know. The movie's called Jason Takes Manhattan, but then it's on a ferry boat. There's like 100 people on the ferry boat, but then I guess Jason's killing them because you don't see them all die, but then Jason starts killing some people. It's fun. It's got a couple of good shots here and there. Particularly, I like that thing in that dance room with the shots and where the girl doesn't know where Jason is. Couple of good kills, the guitar kill and stuff like that. But this movie definitely shows why Paramount was like, New Line, why don't you take this over because we don't want it anymore. The last, 10, 15 minutes are pretty good, other than Jason turning into like a baby, his baby self, when he gets hit with this water. I don't know what's going on in this movie, but hey, let's move along. My number 7 in this list is actually Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, this movie gets a ton of hate. It kind of like fakes you out because the killer, spoiler alert, is not Jason at the end. It's somebody seeking revenge for watching his son die. It's weird. He's wearing like a rubber head, I guess. But the movie, up until that point, is enjoyable, and it's a whodunit, I guess, almost like the original Friday the 13th, where you're trying to figure out who the hell's killing these people. They kind of tiptoe the fact that it is Jason, and I guess the problem that a lot of fans had was they trick you into kind of believing it's Jason. And then it's got a kind of strange ending that really doesn't tie into the next one because they wanted to just forget about it. There's some decent kills, some funny moments. It's not the worst film. It's pretty disappointing if you really wanted to see Voorhees himself in the flesh. Now, moving on to my number 6. People may disagree with this one. I feel about it, and that's Friday the 13th, Part 3D. Now, this movie, it's not my favorite. It didn't make my top 5 because this movie it's very cheesy. It's very cheesy. The characters, the acting, the jokes. What is that character's name? Shelly, the fat one. The good things about this movie, the hockey mask. We get the hockey mask for the first time, actually by that character I was just talking about. That's his mask. Jason ends up taking it, so we get Jason in the hockey mask, finally. Part 3, that's where it happened. Boom. The cool thing you would think is the 3D, but it really isn't. I mean, I don't know how it played in theaters back then because I wasn't around, but I have a DVD copy of it with the 3D glasses, and although it's cool at moments, it honestly just gives you a headache, and you just want to watch the movie without it. But then the problem watching the movie without it is that you got a lot of gags going, right at you. People playing ping pong and stuff, like a lot of stuff that's just thrown in your face, gimmicky, and that basically takes away from the movie. It's cool to see Jason in the hockey mask running around, killing people, and there are some good kills, so it is worth a watch. My number 5 is actually Friday the 13th, Part 7, A New Blood. Now, people may say, what the fuck? Why do you like that? Bernie Lomax from Weekend at Bernie's is in that movie. What is that girl supposed to be, Carrie? She got magic powers? I'll take it. I like this movie. The ridiculousness of this story. I like some of the characters, even though they're cheesy like the rest of the movies, and Jason looks badass. He gets his mask blown off at one point. You see his ugly, rotting corpse face. It's cool. I'll take it. It was actually around the time that they started dabbling with the idea of, ooh, we should do like a Freddy versus Jason, but the companies couldn't reach an agreement, and therefore it turned into this, which is interesting. Next up at number 4 is the original Friday the 13th. What? You didn't put the original at the bottom? No, I didn't. And spoiler alert, for the Nightmare and Halloween list, the originals will be number one. So whatever, I just ruined it for you. But this does not belong at number one for me. I mean, this movie, like I said before, it's a Halloween, replica, and it kind of tries to capture that. I will say that Friday the 13th did bring something new to the genre. It really utilized those graphic kills with makeup by Tom Savini, and that started a trend of its own and a lot of other imitators. Whether it was movies like My Bloody Valentine or any of those other 80s slasher flicks that were full of gore, they were directly influenced by Friday the 13th. Even Halloween 2, the sequel to the original Halloween, was influenced by it when it added more gore and stuff like that, because the original Halloween is a goreless movie. I do like the twist of it, and I like the creepiness of the first one, but it's just not the Friday the 13th I love. I love when Jason's in the flesh and he's the one killing. You have the mom, she's good, she's crazy, she gets her hand chopped off, and then you see man hands while blood shoots out. It's pretty cool, but it's not the best to me. At number 3, Friday the 13th Part 2. I love Friday the 13th Part 2. It's so ridiculous. Such bad actors and, bad cliche characters. You got the kid in the wheelchair. But I just have to watch this movie whenever it's on or whenever I pop it in. I can't shut it off because it's just so addicting, because it takes the great things about Friday the 13th Part 1 and it just enhances them. You see the original girl from Friday the 13th Part 1, the survivor, she gets killed in the first 5 minutes, and then you got a whole new band of new characters, and they get picked off one by one. Jason's got a potato sack, or whatever, a pillowcase on his head, a la The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Go look that up. He's just running around killing people, and he's creepy, and it's a real, I think I saw bits and pieces of this when I was a kid, and I remember it scaring me. I remember just being in the cabin, or when he kills the girl in the bed with the guy and the spear. And I love the ending with Jason's face. And it's, listen, the hockey mask, any day of the week, love the hockey mask. But that potato sack was working. If they had to stick with that, it would have been alright, I think. And how could we forget the kid in the wheelchair, how he meets his demise? If you haven't seen this movie, I don't want to ruin it for you, but every time I see it, I laugh. Hysterical. At number 2, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I love this movie. This is one of the funnest horror movies. I mean, this has a good blend of comedy and a good blend of horror, and this really, I think, cements Jason as the character we all know and love today, because this makes him into a fucking universal monster, something straight out of gothic horror, coming back from the dead, coming out of the grave. And Tom Matthews, I think his name is, from Return of the Living Dead. Brains! He's in this playing Tommy Jarvis. It's just a fun run-around horror film. You got all these different characters. You got this girl, her cop father. Is Tommy crazy? Whatever. It's a fun horror movie, and you could pop this in without knowing anything about Jason and just enjoy it, because it's one of the more well-done movies. My number 1 Friday the 13th is Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter. This was originally supposed to close the series because Paramount was sick and tired of making money off these piece of shit films. That's from their mouth, not from mine. They basically wanted to send them out the right way. They got Tom Savini back on makeup. They got a little Corey Feldman in there. He's like a makeup effects kid, which is actually a homage to Tom Savini. It's a good film. It's a fun film. It's the best of these movies. All the funny cliche characters are in there. You got a lot of good kills. And you just got a good Jason, running around looking scary. And who could forget the money shot when they kill him at the end? So that's my list of Friday the 13th from worst to best. What did you guys think? Do you agree with my list? Would you change a couple around? Look out, because I'm going to be doing Nightmare on Elm Street next. So that'll be coming sometime in the next week before Halloween. And then, of course, I'm going to end it with the Halloween series last. So those will be coming up soon. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Take a look at my other videos. Take a look at my sketches, guys. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.